Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on your Tuesday morning. I am live out at First Horizon Park as the Nashville Sounds have their home opener tonight against the Charlotte Knights. 6:35 first pitch out here. It is a beautiful day. And Parker, I'm sad you can't join me out here. The temperature is perfect. It is beautiful baseball weather out here at First Horizon Park.
Yeah, I was listening to Robbie on my way in, and I heard the birds chirping in the background, and I'm like, man, it really does sound like a beautiful day out there.
Yeah, I have heard that the birds got a lot of buzz on the text line today, so we will, I'm sure, be serenaded throughout the entire day as well. But it is a great day for baseball. We will talk about the Sounds throughout the show today, but lots to get to. Parker is back at our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. Let's start with the Titans today, Parker, as Mike Borgonzi spoke yesterday to the media out at the owners' meetings in Phoenix. And this is the first time that we've heard from Mike Borgonzi since all of the big moves that the Titans have made so far this offseason, whether that's the Tavondre Sweat, Jermaine Johnson trade, or all of the moves they made in free agency. And I thought there was a lot of interesting things that came out of that. I want to start with the interior of the offensive line because that's the big question mark that I think a lot of us have had after the big free agent moves the Titans made was what's the plan at center and right guard? You cut Lloyd Cushenberry. You have not re-signed Kevin Zeitler yet. And a group on that offensive front that was expected to be relatively consistent from year to year now has two pretty big question marks. And Mike Borgonzi's answer wasn't exactly confidence inducing. He said that they're not done there yet and they still have the draft, but it's going to be a competition. And I think to me, I took that as we've got most of what we need there with Sloatman and Slater and Volson, and maybe you add in a mid-round draft pick there. But that isn't exactly a great plan in front of a second-year quarterback where Dan Moore and J.C. Latham at tackle, they were fine last year for the most part, but they weren't great. They weren't elite. And now you're going to probably have somebody who's inexperienced or not quite as talented as Kevin Zeitler next to J.C. Latham. And your center isn't going to be a guy with a whole lot of starting experience, whether it's Sloatman, whether it's Slater, whether it's a draft pick. So that didn't exactly make me more confident about the Titans' offensive front based on what Mike Borgonzi had to say.
Yeah, not exactly a load of confidence. My whole thing was I was okay. I don't think anybody was upset about Lloyd Cushenberry, letting him walk. But in terms of getting a veteran center to pair with Cam Ward, because that takes we talk about taking pressure off of Cam Ward, right? I think that's why both of us are so high on Jeremiah Love at number 4. But if you get a veteran center who's able to call out protections, right, point out the Mike linebackers and all those different things, that's another thing that you're taking off of Cam Ward's plate. So with the guys that they have experience. It's just not a lot of experience. And if you add a center in the fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh round, I think there are good centers. I think Jake Slaughter is probably the best center in this draft, but he's projected to go at best third round and maybe even in the fourth. I don't know if you want a rookie doing that. So I do not quite understand this.
Yeah, and Volson is kind of the wild card here because he has started 48 games in his NFL career. He just didn't play it all last year. And it's not like when he was a starter, he wasn't this all pro for the Bengals. He was a fine, suitable starting right guard. I thought that this offseason was going to be more based around trying to help Cam Ward. And they've done some things there. Wan'Dale Robinson is definitely going to help him. But I don't think they've done enough in terms of giving Cam Ward the best chance to succeed heading into year 2. You brought back Calvin Ridley, who was inconsistent at best when he was healthy last year. You get rid of his starting center, which I'm not acting like Lloyd Cushenberry was some all-pro level guy when he came back from the Achilles, but usually you see those guys come back from the Achilles, and the second year is when they improve. The shoulder surgery, I guess, was what complicated things for them when they cut him with the failed physical designation. But I expected this offseason to be centered around giving Cam Ward the best chance to go take a big leap in year 2. And really, it's been a net zero in terms of what you've added for him on the offensive side of the ball. You haven't done anything at running back. You added Wan'Dale Robinson at wide receiver, and you've made the offensive line worse with what you've done, not re-signing Zeitler and letting go of Cushenberry. So I know there's still time. The offseason is not over. The draft is still coming up, but I am disappointed in the lack of resources that they've given Cam Ward as they try and see him ascend as the franchise quarterback in his second year.
And there are things, despite how you may feel about the Robert Saleh hire and everything that's gone into that, there's a lot of reason to be optimistic because there's so much new. And typically when there's a lot of new, there's reason to be excited. But then I go back in my mind and thinking about these things like, okay, left guard, right guard, those are not premium positions in football. However, they are still very important because we're seeing the growth of the defensive tackle position really in football, right? These guys are making a lot more money than they used to. So that interior, that triangle, right? Your left guard, center, right guard triangle is becoming a lot more important to be able to protect against those really good defensive tackles that Cam Ward will face this year. So it just leaves me scratching my head because I don't doubt that these people in the front office that Mike Borgonzi and he's assembled, I don't doubt that they're smart football people, but I cannot wrap my mind around this.
Well, and if they thought Lloyd Cushenberry was not going to take a step forward in year two after the Achilles, then I'm fine getting rid of him. It's not like he was great even when he was healthy. So the Cushenberry thing I understood, but I understood it with the idea that they had a plan to replace him. And so far what we've seen, if that was their plan, I don't think it was all that well thought out. And I hate the idea of backing yourself into a corner where you feel like you have to address that position in the draft. We talked about this yesterday when Matt Miller for ESPN did his 7-round mock draft. He had the Titans taking a guard at 35. And I hate the idea of being at 35 and seeing talented wide receivers, talented pass rushers, talented cornerbacks on the board and saying, well, our quarterback's going to get killed if we don't address center and right guard in the draft because we can't go out there with Jackson Slater and Cordell Volson as our starters heading into week one. And I just hate the idea of being backed into that corner if you're Mike Borgonzi. Maybe he's got something up his sleeve that we haven't talked about yet, or maybe Kevin Zeitler is going to come back. But based on the comments he made yesterday, it didn't sound like anything with Zeitler was necessarily imminent. And he did say we still have the draft and post-draft to address it. I just am not loving the idea of having competitions, open competitions between guys who are not elite level players. Elite might be too strong of a word, but like you can have competitions when you have two young players who are both good, but it's competition between a lot of guys that are unknowns that we have not seen be full-time starters in the NFL. I don't like the idea of having two positions up for grabs heading into training camp in year two of Cam Ward.
Yeah. And I'm not saying the Titans should listen to us because that's not what they should do. But how many times did we, on this show go through the list of potential centers that the Titans could acquire in free agency? And granted, there were not a lot. It was a very thin market this year, but there were options available. And the Titans waited and waited and waited. And those guys ended up getting signed elsewhere. And you're kind of left with what you have, which I'm not saying they're bad options, but they're not the best options. So, and I had an NFL Network on this morning, and of course you have all these different mock drafts that are thrown around. Some mock drafts had the Titans taking Jeremiah Love. Some had them taking a David Bailey, which I think we'd both be happy with, either one of those options. And there was one that had the Titans taking Mansour Delane, which I don't think either of us think that a corner should be drafted that high, especially to the Titans. So I just hope that they're able to get the best football players available in the early portion of the draft, and we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, I am very intrigued at what the plan is for Mike Borgonzi because, again, it didn't seem like there was any kind of signing imminent. You're right. There were options out there, maybe not a ton of options, and everybody, when they cut Cushenberry, was saying, oh, they're going all in for Linderbaum. And I'm totally fine with not spending $27 million on a center. That was a steep price to go get Tyler Linderbaum. but there were other options out there. And we talked about Tyler Fortner and Dylan Parham. That was a guy that TD was saying he thought was going to be a Titan, and he ended up going elsewhere. So I'm a little disappointed at what the plan has been on the interior of the offensive line, especially because outside of Peter Skoronski, the guys that they have solidified in there haven't exactly been world beaters. Like Dan Moore is a fine left tackle. He's not great. He's fine. J.C. Latham got better towards the end of last season, but he had some real struggles coming off that hip injury early in year 2. So you're basically going into next year with one solid offensive lineman if this is the plan right now. And especially with what you've done at wide receiver as well, and not really having a bona fide number one weapon for Cam Ward at this point. Again, maybe you go out and get that in the draft. I'm not exactly thrilled with what the Titans have done on the offensive side of the ball this offseason. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Some thoughts on the text line. 3555 says, only thing that makes sense is that ownership has said we are done spending this offseason. See, I disagree with that. I don't think this is coming from ownership. If you're going to spend, $300 million in contracts this offseason, you would spend 320. Like, I really don't think that it's a money issue. I think they might have just missed out on some guys that they thought they were going to get, and now you might be stuck having to spend a third or a fourth round pick on an offensive lineman on the interior. Cameron says that's what we do every year, man. Wildly overdraft some garbage linemen out of desperation and then do it every year thereafter for eternity. Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing to look back at the past 6 or 7 years and say and see all of the draft capital that you've spent on the offensive line, and only 2 of them are actually playing for you still in Skoronski and Latham, who are both top 12 picks, but you've spent first-round picks, second-round picks, third-round picks on offensive linemen trying to get this fixed, and all of them have flamed out. You hope that if you spend a pick this year, that it's actually going to help your team in the immediate future. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to text or call, our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Again, I am out at First Horizon Park for the Sounds home opener tonight, 6:35 first pitch against the Charlotte Knights. It is a gorgeous day for baseball, and excited to have the Sounds back here in Hit City. They'll be here all week long, taking on the Knights until Sunday afternoon. We have some tickets to give away for the Sounds game coming up on Thursday, so we'll do those later this hour. Again, we'll have some Sounds tickets. We'll give those away as Nashville baseball is back here at First Horizon Park. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, we are off and running on this Tuesday. More Titans talk when we come back here on Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. I hope TD's listening out there in Arizona. Some Tennessee pimping going on. That's his guy, MCD. And we'll have TD back on the show on Thursday after he had to miss last week. So excited to talk with Tehran coming up for his usual spot on TD Thursdays. All of our offseason coverage on the program is brought to you by Tennessee Brewworks. From kickoff to last call, Tennessee Brewworks is the official craft beer of the football offseason coverage on ESPN 102.5 The Game. Again, I am out at First Horizon Park in Germantown, the Nashville Sound, starting off their home slate tonight, taking on the Charlotte Knights, 6:35 first pitch out here at First Horizon Park. And if you want to listen in, 6:20 pregame with Jeff Hem on 94.9 The Fan. But we're talking Titans here to lead off the show. Mike Borgonzi spoke to the media out in Arizona yesterday, talking about some of the moves they made this offseason. We went through the center and right guard discussion because the interior of the offensive line, there are holes on this team on both sides of the ball, places where you feel like the team could add another player. But in terms of the strategy used this offseason, the interior of the offensive line is the one that I don't really understand. The Titans did go out of their way to spend more money this offseason, and Mike Borgonzi even said it, that typically, as they go along here, if they're able to get this thing turning around, they're not going to want to spend as much as they did and bring in as many players as they did in free agency this season. But with the shape of the roster and just the landscape of the NFL as a whole right now, you don't get that many years to turn things around. If this team goes 4-13 next year, Mike Borgonzi might not have a job. So it's like you've got to go in and you have to get proven veteran players who can come in and raise the floor of this team. And that's what he did. But he said in the future, this isn't going to be the norm where they go out and they are the biggest spender of the offseason. So I was glad to hear that. And I think Mike Borgonzi telling the truth there, saying that, hey, the Titans aren't going to be this team that's going to go out and spend hundreds of millions of dollars in free agency every single spring. But this year, it was kind of necessary just to get this roster back to being competitive. There was something that I don't believe that Mike Borgonzi said yesterday. He was asked about bringing in all of these players that were former players under Robert Saleh with the Jets or under Brian Daboll with the Giants or the Bills. And he said that they had no plan to do that. That's just kind of the way things worked out. And I don't really believe that when almost all of your moves were made to bring in guys that are familiar with Saleh and Daboll. And I don't specifically have a problem with it, right? Like you're bringing in guys who they believe can set the culture. They know the systems. And that's important to bring in when you're trying to reset an entire regime up there at now Vanderbilt Health Football Park. But it's understandable to bring in guys who are familiar with Saleh, they're familiar with the system, and they can come in and try and accelerate the setting of the culture. But Borgonzi saying that they didn't go out intending to do that, I was like, all right, well, let's go through all of your moves. You brought in Jermaine Johnson in a trade before free agency. Your first 5 moves in free agency were all former players of either Daboll or Saleh. Trubisky, Bellinger, Robinson, Flott, and John Franklin Myers. I think that's the first 5. Maybe Alontae Taylor snuck in there too. But I didn't quite believe that they didn't have a plan to go get guys who were familiar with Saleh and Daboll's system. But I do believe him in saying that that's not going to be their MO, is always just, hey, we're familiar with this guy, we're bringing him in. But I do understand it that in a new regime, you're trying to completely reset the system on both sides of the ball. It makes sense to bring in guys who are familiar with what these coaches are and what they do.
I think you made a good point because if you're just looking at the logo, right, your logo scouting, and you see the Giants and you see the Jets, you probably wouldn't think that these are good players. They are. They're not elite, but they're good players. And I think it's a natural human tendency, and we talk about this all the time, right, to go with what you know. And when you're Robert Saleh and you're on your second head coaching job in the NFL, you're not going to get a third if you fail. So this is your last chance to be an NFL head coach.
Yep.
You learn some things in New York that you don't want to do, and you probably learn some things in New York that you will want to carry over, right? It's about finding that balance. But to ensure that you get this right your second go round, Robert Saleh, I believe, is a smart person, and he knows this. You bring in people who will make that transition to a new city a new town, a new team, to make that transition easier. So I think that's okay. And I really love the point, right? If you're looking specifically at the logos of these guys and where they came from, you wouldn't think they're good. But it's important to actually, have watched a player and understand how they're going to fit in the scheme to know how they're going to produce for the Tennessee Titans this fall.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I don't have a specific issue with going and getting those guys who played under Saleh or Dable, but it was just funny to see Borgonzi say like, oh, that was kind of unintentional. Like it just kind of happened that way. I'm like, no, it didn't. You knew exactly what you were doing, which there's not a problem with it. But in the future, obviously, you'd like to see them broaden their horizons on the types of players they're going to bring in. Let's get to a couple texts here. Our phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. If you want to join the conversation, Alex from Montreal says, I think the Titans need another year of a top 10 draft pick to finalize the rebuild. And that is a very interesting point from Alex, because I would agree with you. I don't think that the current makeup of this roster is in a spot to take a big jump. I think they're going to be better this year, but any comparisons to the Patriots of last year or the Commanders from 2 years before, I think it's premature. I think this team is going to be better, but I think they're going to be 7 wins type of better, not playoff team better. And I do think that having another blue chip player next year could be that final missing piece to get things going. And you know what position I think that player would need to come at? Left tackle. Okay. Like I think you need to make sure that your bookend tackles are set. You have hopes that J.C. Latham figures it out in year 3, similarly to what Peter Skoronski did in his last season. But you need to get a long-term solution at left tackle. And just as we talk about with edge rushers, the elite guys typically come at the top of the draft. Not all of them. You see examples of guys on day 2 and day 3 turning into great left tackles. Jordan Mailata of the Eagles is the one example that I know a lot of people bring up. But typically, if you want to solidify left tackle for a decade, you got to do it in the top 10 to 15. So I agree with Alex. It's like I think that this team's going to take a step, but I think they may be one more blue chip piece at that premium position of left tackle to get this thing truly back into a competitive spot. Skyler on the text line says, I get the Titans need offensive help, offensive line, wide receiver, and so on. What would you guys say if they went pass rusher in the first and second round, Bailey or Bain in the first, and somebody like Young from Missouri in the second round? It would be tough. I mean, you would have a really, really good defensive front if you went with 2 pass rushers early. I wouldn't hate doubling up on pass rusher throughout the draft, whether that's, hey, you take one in the first round and you get one at 101 at the top of the 4th or something like that. I think I would struggle with taking one at 4 and 35. I just think you need to go get a weapon for Cam Ward at one of those picks. So whether that's Jeremiah Love at 4 or a wide receiver at 35, I think you need to go get somebody who Cam Ward can grow with and can turn into his go-to guy, whether that's out of the backfield or on the outside. I don't think you can go pass rush at 4 and 35.
Yeah, I just think pass rush is obviously a big need, but there are a lot of needs. So you address pass rusher in the first 2 rounds, I think you're fine for right now, but there are too many needs on this roster to address. I wouldn't feel comfortable doing that. Now, if you take one, like you said, first, and then you pair him with maybe a 4th round pick, sure, right, that's fine. But you take them in back-to-back rounds, first and second, I just think there are more needs that you need to address. I would love to see either a combination of pass rusher, pass catcher, whether that's, a running back or a wide receiver or, one of these hybrid tight ends, or the other way around, you take Jeremiah Love and then you pair him with the pass rusher in the second round. That is my perfect world and ideally what I'd want to see.
Yeah, I think you've done more on the defensive side of the ball in free agency. And we'll talk about Mike Borgonzi's comments on the draft class coming up in the next segment. But I just think you have, outside of Wan'Dale Robinson, you have not helped Cam Ward almost at all this offseason. And so I do think you've got 2 picks in the top 50. I think one of those has to go to helping Cam Ward. And I would say it would be more valuable to use that on some sort of weapon rather than an offensive line. but I think you have to find a way to help Cam Ward with one of those first two picks. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Again, if you want to text, you want to call, we will get to your thoughts as well on our phone and text line, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We are out here at First Horizon Park as the Nashville Sound's first home game of the regular season comes up tonight against Charlotte, 6:35 out here at First Horizon Park. You can catch all of the action on 94.9 The Fan, presented by Family Leisure and Social Cantina. Mike Borgonzi did have some comments specifically on the players at the top of the draft and what the Titans will do at number 4. We will talk about those coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on your Tuesday morning. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Today, Vanderbilt baseball hosts Belmont at Hawkins Field. First pitch is at 6 p.m. Catch all of the action on 102.5. The game coverage is presented by Gary Force Acura, and we will be joined at 11:30 today by the voice of Vanderbilt baseball, Andrew Allegretta, to talk about their sweep of walk-offs against Tennessee over the weekend and looking ahead to tonight's game against Belmont. I am out here at First Horizon Park on the Broward deck. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. It is a beautiful day for the home opener for the Nashville Sounds, taking on the Charlotte Knights. They are the AAA affiliate of the White Sox. And again, the Sounds, if you aren't aware, they are the AAA affiliate of the Milwaukee Brewers, who have the best farm system in baseball. Lots of talented players are going to be coming through Hit City this season. So home opener tonight, we will give away some Sounds tickets coming up in just a bit for the game on Thursday. But talking Titans here, Mike Borgonzi spoke to the media yesterday out at the owners' meetings in Arizona, and we've been going through some of the comments. The one big one that got picked up a lot of places was Mike Borgonzi was being asked about positional value and would position play a role in who you take it for depending on who's on the board. And he said the Titans are taking the best player available no matter what the position is. They feel like they can get the best player in the draft. And Parker, a lot of people, including myself, kind of took that to mean Jeremiah Love is not going to be passed up on just because of the position that he plays.
Yeah, no, and we know how Mike Borgonzi is, right? He's not going to tip his hand. He's going to talk without giving too much away, if anything at all. So we can try to read in between the lines. Like, I think Jeremiah Love is the best player in the draft. I think he will be available at 4. So if I'm speculating, if I'm guessing, which I am entirely doing, I think that means that the Titans would take Jeremiah Love. And if this isn't about positional value, then that makes sense.
Yeah, and I do think Love is on the board for them, but I also think that if David Bailey is there, I think they will go Bailey. I do. I think they realize that taking a pass rusher is going to be more advantageous for this team in the long term when you can go get a weapon later in the draft. It was 0123 on the text line says, what if the Titans went Bailey at 4 and then Jadarian Price at 35? I would prefer a wide receiver over Price at 35, but I think that could be a more realistic scenario if they want to address running back and pass rush. Although I think the gap between Love and Price is a little bit wider than some people may think. The sun has finally gone beyond the awning here. I'm not getting quite as much glare in the eyes, which is great, but it is a beautiful day out here. The Titans, I will caution anybody taking Mike Borgonzi's word, at face value, that last year, do you remember? I don't think it was at the owners' meetings. It might have been at the combine, but Mike Borgonzi was asked about trading away the first overall pick, and he said, we will not pass on a generational player at number 1.
I do remember that.
And everybody said, oh, they're taking Travis Hunter. Like that was the conclusion everybody took, was they're taking Travis Hunter. That's the only generational player in this class. And clearly the Titans were going a different direction and taking Cam Ward. So I'll caution you out there that what Mike Borgonzi says may not necessarily lead you to the conclusion that they actually want you to take, right? Everybody thought generational player equals Travis Hunter. Well, the Titans were saying they thought that they had a great quarterback that they could go get at number 1 in Cam Ward. So although I do think Love is on the table, I will caution you that Mike Borgonzi may want you to think that that's who he's talking about when maybe he's talking about a different scenario. It is lying season, as we are just over 3 weeks away from the draft.
Right. That's why all this speculation stuff gets monotonous. But we do know, and TD's talked about this before, that out of their, favorite prospects, right? We know that Jeremiah Love is certainly in there. And all we know other than that is they like the edge rushers in this draft. They like Ruben Bain. I'm sure they like David Bailey. I have no idea how they feel about Arvell Reese, but that's all we know. But if I'm just going off of my personal opinion, when you're talking about the best player, not just available at number 4, but best player overall, I certainly think Jeremiah Love is in there. I would throw Caleb Downs in there, but that just doesn't make sense for the Titans to take him at 4. It just leads me back to Jeremiah Love.
It very well could be Love. And I'll stick with my percentages that I put up there last week. I still think, if I had to guess, I think the most likely player the Titans take is Jeremiah Love. But I do think if I had to guess Love versus the field, I'd take the field. I don't think it's the most likely scenario, but I would say it's like a plurality that Jeremiah Love has. As we sit, again, 23 days away from round one of the draft, so much can change, as we've seen before, even in the hours leading up to the first round of the draft. A couple of questions on the text line here. Wes in Clarksville says, do you think Cam will be ready to go week one, or will he be battling the shoulder? I believe he'll be ready to go for like OTAs and minicamp coming up in a few weeks. Based on what we've heard from the Titans, Mike Borgonzi said yesterday that Cam Ward is starting to elevate his throwing progressions as he comes back from that AC joint sprain. So I think Cam Ward maybe won't be a full go for all of the offseason work, but I would say he will be 100% by training camp. So I don't think there's any worry there about him struggling with that. Damian in Nashville says, maybe the Titans focused on defense more in free agency because it's easier to plug and play through the draft. They can focus on offense to be on the same timeline as Cam. As for the offensive line, I don't know. And maybe that's true. Maybe they wanted to pair Cam Ward with more guys that he can grow with moving forward. So maybe they will focus more on offense in the draft. But the offensive line is the big question mark that we've been running through. Is just, you cut Lloyd Cushenberry, it felt like you would have had a better plan to replace him than what we've seen so far this offseason. Still time. The draft has not happened yet, but as of right now, I have serious concerns about that center and right guard spot for the Titans heading into 2026. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Our good friend Keegan is called in. Keegan, thanks for calling. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, fellas. Hope you all are doing all right today. I want to talk about Jeremiah Love, and kind of like y'all brought up, the offensive line situation. So I'm not on the Jeremiah Love train. I don't personally think we're going to draft him. Honestly, at this point, I don't really care who we draft. I just don't think it'll be Jeremiah Love. And one of the biggest reasons is the current state of the offensive line. If you look back at last year, what was it, 10 games before the offensive line really finally got rolling?
Yeah.
And the rushing game is actually able to start doing something. Well, from there, you let Zeitler walk out, you cut Cushenberry. And that was, two big pieces of the group that got it going last year. So you might have felt confident ending the season with the offensive line. Like, okay, hey, you get a better running back in here than Pollard. This group can really do something. But now Zeitler's gone, Cushenberry's gone. You're probably going to replace one of them with Slater. It just seems like, it's not the right time to draft a running back based on what we're doing with our offensive line. Because even after this upcoming season, Dan Moore's contract is over with. You have to make a decision on J.C. Latham. You want to extend Peter Skoronski. I just think there's too many question marks, not only for this upcoming season, but the one after as well. There's too many question marks for you to sit there and be like, yeah, if we draft Jeremiah Love, he'll have this top 10 unit in front of him, and they can just go maul people, and he can rush for 1,500 yards, whatever. I just don't see that working out because of kind of the state over the next couple of years of the offensive line. And to me, obviously, you guys know I love Ruben Bain. I would love to draft him, but I think I kind of fall more on the with Jake. We're going to end up drafting the David Bailey, if Arvell Reese drops, which I doubt he will. But regardless, I feel like we're going to end up going edge rusher in the first round, and I think we're going to pass on Jeremiah Love just because of the current state of things. Yeah, that's what I got, Phyllis.
Yeah, thanks for the call, Keegan. I think that is a good point. If you look at what Ashton Jeanty did this past year with the Raiders, he was viewed as one of those can't-miss running back prospects that's going to come in and take over the league. And we've gone through the workload that he dealt with at Boise State. Jeremiah Love, almost half of the touches that Ashton Jeanty had, but he came in, the offensive line wasn't very good, the passing game wasn't very good, so he wasn't very good. So I understand what Keegan is saying there, that this offensive line isn't exactly built to be road graders in front of Jeremiah Love, and he can hit the ground running. This was from Paul Kuharsky yesterday on Twitter. This is SF Data Niners, so it's a Niners data account, but they put together which teams have invested the most valuable draft capital into each position group. And Paul Kuharsky pulled out the Titans segment of it. Offensive line is far and away the most that the Titans have used since 2020. It's the third most in the NFL among all teams used on the offensive line, and they still don't have a center, don't have a right guard, and will need to replace their left tackle after next year. It's crazy how much resources they've poured into the offensive line and the little results that they've gotten back out. If you do look at the rest of this graph, and again, this is on Paul Kuharsky's Twitter if you want to go check it out, wide receiver and D-line are low, at least relatively. And then running back, tight end, and linebacker are the ones they've used the least. So the Titans have spent most of their draft capital on offensive line, quarterback, and defensive back over the last 6 drafts. We will see if they can add a little bit to the wide receiver, defensive line, maybe running back positions in this year's draft. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. If you want to join on the conversation, we'll keep talking Titans on the other side. We'll talk some Ruben Bain and also maybe a wild card that could change what the Titans would have available to them at number 4. All of that coming up. I am live today at First Horizon Park. Sounds playing their home opener today against the Charlotte Knights. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Tee it up with us at the 5th Annual 615 Open, May 28th at Hermitage Golf Course. We are once again supporting Folds of Honor to help them fund life-changing scholarships for families of America's fallen heroes. You can register now to play or sponsor at 615open.com. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Going through the comments from Mike Borgonzi out at the owners' meetings in Arizona yesterday, and we haven't talked about Ruben Bain yet. And I am still staying on my side. I flipped over away from the Bain train a couple of weeks ago when the arm measurements came out. You just can't draft a guy at number 4 expecting him to be the exception to the rule. When you look and you say that a pass rusher with sub 31 inch arms hasn't been drafted in the first round in 20 years, not the top 5, in the first round in 20 years, I just don't know if you can draft a guy and say, well, he's different. And Maybe Mike Borgonzi is being serious when he says that the arm length isn't a factor. He said yesterday they believe Bain can still play a wide 9 and that the arm length isn't going to be a big issue. Maybe they're just trying to talk him up so somebody else takes Ruben Bain. But I'm staying with it. If he ends up being the pick, I will come in here on April 24th and start the show with, he better be a 10-sack guy every year, because that's what you're expecting when you take a guy at number 4 overall. If they're going to bet on Ruben Bain to be that guy, he has to be it, because you are overlooking the context, the history of guys who don't have length on the edge and saying, well, we can fix him. He's going to be the right guy. He better be if you take him, because you're ignoring all the historical context if you do it.
I've sung a different tune on Ruben Bain, not for the same reason that you have. I think the tape speaks for itself, but in terms of Jeremiah Love being the best player in this draft, the fact that you can get him at 4, I think the value is significantly greater than drafting a Ruben Bain at number 4, just because I think Jeremiah Love is one of those can't miss guys. There are some questions with Ruben Bain. I still think that he's going to be a great player. I still think that he's going to be a top 10 pick, but that's why I've sung a different tune. And my whole lens worldview on this is who can I draft? Because there have been a lot of players acquired to help the defense. I'm not as worried about the defense because of Saleh's history. Who can I draft that'll help Cam Ward the most? I believe that's Jeremiah Love. That's why I'm singing a different tune on Ruben Bain.
And I understand that mindset too, that for you, it's not a Bain issue. It's just you like Love more. And I think there are a lot of people who have that mindset as well. For me, if Bain is the pick, I mean, I'm not going to come in here and just light the Titans up for the entire offseason, because once you make the pick, he's got to be part of the solution. And I think that he is a good player. I do think he's going to be a good NFL player, but you're raising the likelihood that you're drafting a bust at number 4 for no reason, right? Like with David Bailey, he could easily bust too. There's nothing saying that if you take David Bailey at 4 that he is immediately going to be an all-pro level pass rusher and be that 10 to 12 to 15 sack a year guy. There's nothing guaranteeing that. But when you look at what guys like him have done, then I think the likelihood of him being a bust is so much lower than Ruben Bain. So I really, really hope that it's not Bain, just because you're betting on a unicorn. You're betting on him to be the exception to everything that we've seen. And with Bailey, yeah, he could still bust too. But David Bailey, you're at least looking and you're saying, this is what a typical top 5 pass rusher looks like. We're going to take him. With Ruben Bain, you're having to look past the warts to say, hey, he can still be a great guy if he gets into our building. I just don't think it can be Bain.
Yeah. Again, I'm so torn, just because I don't know which way the Titans would lean to edge rusher, because if they were to not take Love, I think David Bailey from a pure edge rush standpoint would probably fit the mold a little bit better, just because he can play a wider technique than Ruben Bain. I think Ruben Bain would have to bump inside a little bit, But for Arvell Reese, I've never really viewed him as a true edge rusher, a guy that'll put his hand in the dirt, which I think if he was drafted, Saleh would ask him to do that. I just don't think I think that would be a disservice to him. So from a pure edge rushing standpoint, I think Bailey would probably be better off because for Ruben Bain, I think you're going to have to bump him inside a little bit, which is not a bad thing, but it's just all dependent on what you want out of your defensive lineman.
Yeah, and with Arvell Reese, I'm under the assumption he's going to go second to the Jets. That's just where a lot of things are pointing. Again, still 23 days to go till the first round. But if I had to guess right now, I think Reese goes too. But I agree with you. Reese may just not be a good fit for what Robert Saleh wants to do. I don't think that means you can't pick him, but I do think that the Titans would lean towards David Bailey over an Arvell Reese. Bain, I think Mike Borgonzi would be putting his job seriously on the line by taking Bain. Because with Bailey, I think you would look at it and you'd say, well, it looked like that guy was going to be an all-pro. Based on the production, based on the measurables, there wasn't much outside of a little, the mobility in the bend isn't exactly perfect. None of these guys are perfect prospects. But you look at Bailey and you say, any GM might have missed out on that being the guy at 4. With Ruben Bain, you have to ignore history to take him. And that's why I'm kind of with you that the safest pick for Mike Borgonzi would be Jeremiah Love, because I think Jeremiah Love is going to be a really good player. And yeah, the positional value isn't the best, but I don't think anybody's going to look at it and say, man, what were you doing taking Jeremiah Love there? I think it's going to end up looking like a good pick, even if you're taking him higher than you would typically like to take a running back. With the pass rushers, they're all going to be compared to each other from the very start. And if you take the 1 or the 2, or maybe all 3 of them bust, but if you take one that ends up being the worst of the 3, you're going to get some serious egg in your face. So going to be very interesting on draft night. I mean, I can't believe we still got 3 weeks, Parker. We're going to keep having this conversation for 3 straight weeks. And, you know, Mike Borgonzi is and people in that room are the only one who know what the plan is based on the scenarios there at 4. But there are really so many different avenues the Titans can go. And we're just going to have to see what they value most when they get on the clock at 4.
Yeah, and notice how much, we started talking. When did we start talking about the draft? Was it February after the Super Bowl?
I mean,
did we start
talking about
the
draft in like December?
Right. If we're being honest, notice how much we've both been singing different songs, not just with Jeremiah Love, but with a lot of these guys. So there's so much time in between the end of the season, even the Super Bowl in February, to where we are now, and just thinking we still have 24 days to go until we get to that first night. It's very exciting, but it still feels like forever away.
It's going to be a while before we get to draft night. And you're right, like things change so much. We talked about Carnell Tate last week. Carnell Tate was a guy who was seriously talked about as the number 4 pick for like a month there, and then he didn't run a great time at the combine. Even sooner than that, he didn't have a great final game in that quarterfinal matchup against Miami and kind of fell off. But we really have had the pools of guys the Titans could make it for has shifted so much over the last couple of weeks, and it could continue to happen. Keegan texted in. He says, drafting Bailey over Bain only works if Bain is legitimately bad. If Bailey is a bust, I will legit never let you live it down. And that's fine. If Ruben Bain comes in and he is the exception to the rule and he becomes, a combination of Aaron Donald and Khalil Mack and is the guy that everybody hopes he's going to be, that's fine.
Who did Keegan say he wanted? Was he a Bailey
Ruben
guy?
Bain. He's on the Bain train.
He's a Ruben Bain guy.
Yeah, he's on the Bain train. I think minimizing risk is a big part of the draft. And yes, you want to get guys with high ceilings. That's a huge part of it too. So, but David Bailey, Jeremiah Love, and Ruben Bain, I think all have high ceilings. I think Bain has the lowest floor. And I think you have to look at that and say, minimizing risk, you don't take the guy who would have to be the exception to the rule. You take the guys who fit what central casting says is going to be a good player at their position in the NFL. And David Bailey had 14.5 sacks last year. So I would take Bailey over Bain, but Keegan, 100%. If If a year from now, Ruben Bain is the defensive rookie of the year and David Bailey has 2 sacks, you can come and light me up for it. Go ahead. But minimizing risk, I don't think you can take Ruben Bain. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We will get to your phones and much more on the other side. I did mention there's one wild card in the draft that could change things for the Titans. We will get to it coming up next. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Second hour, next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. I am out at First Horizon Park, the Nashville Sounds. Home opener tonight against the Charlotte Knights, 6:35 first pitch. We are up on the Brower deck. It is a beautiful day for baseball. Hope you'll come on out for the home opener tonight. Parker is back at our Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We are still talking Titans and going to continue talking about the draft. And let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Dr. Locke is called in. Thanks for calling this morning. What you got for us?
What's up, fellas? To me, it's an absolute no-brainer. You take Jeremiah Love, you don't look back, and it fills in what the Titans have been for, the last 20 years. You got Eddie George, Chris Johnson, Derrick Henry, and the next chapter of great Titan running backs. You've got a 12-year starter that's going to, I would say, probably at the end of his career, put a gold jacket on. The guy is an absolute can't miss. He also can catch the ball 60, 70 times out of the backfield. And the fan base is splintered, and as downtrodden as the fan base is, they need a can't miss. They need a jersey that everybody can start putting on and feeling good about. and it's Jeremiah Love. The guy is a class act on and off the field. He was raised right. He got absolutely no behavior problems on and off the field. The guy is who you want at running back for the next 12 years. And it's not a luxury. I would say it's a necessity. The guy will round out your offense and give you something to build around.
And you make a good point about Jeremiah Love, and I think personality-wise, just based on the videos that I've seen of him and Cam Ward would mesh really well. Like Cam Ward had the press conference last year where he says like the only people he talks to outside of the facility are his parents and his dog. And then Jeremiah Love said he doesn't do much. He goes home, plays video games. Like I think those are two very similar personalities that would fit well.
Jeremiah Love's talked about that before, like when he was like he's being interviewed before the Heisman ceremony, and he's just all ball all the time.
Yeah. So
the guy is an absolute winner, and he will come in and hit the ground running. We don't have to worry about any problems, and he will be goal oriented, and he's a can't miss. And honestly, we need a can't miss. We cannot miss at 4.
I agree with you there, and thank you for the call, Dr. Locke. I think that was the point I was trying to make in the last segment when talking about Bain, Bailey, Love, is you don't want to miss on this pick. And I think Bain has the highest chance of being a miss. Love and Bailey, there's no guarantees that they're going to be superstars, but I think the chance of them being a bust is so much lower than Rueben Bain. There were two things that Dr. Locke said that maybe they are factors in that building for why to take Jeremiah Love, but they shouldn't be used in the draft process. One, that's a guy who sells tickets. I know you got to sell tickets, and Jeremiah Love certainly would sell tickets and sell jerseys with Love and Ward in the backfield. That's a reason for people to come out to the games. I understand that maybe is a factor over there if Amy Adams Strunk is getting involved in some of these conversations, which I would say she shouldn't be. But if she is, maybe that's part of the conversation, is that Jeremiah Love would be a fan favorite right off the bat, rather than, David Bailey or Rueben Bain, if they get 10 sacks, they could become one. But Jeremiah Love becomes a guy that gets butts in seats immediately. I don't think that should be part of it. And we got in trouble for this, Parker. People were not happy when I said this, but I'll say it again. Eddie George, Chris Johnson, Derrick Henry should have absolutely nothing to do with whether you take Jeremiah Love or not. We get so many texts and stuff about this franchise is known for having great running backs. Take the next one. Who cares? Who cares? I understand that's been your identity, but you're trying to build a good football team. You're not trying to build the team that won 25 years ago, or the team that won 8 years ago, or the team that won 5 years ago. You're trying to build the team that will win now. And if you think Jeremiah Love is that guy, if you say Jeremiah Love is going to be a game changer for our franchise, you take him. But you don't take him because it's like, well, the Titans' identity has always been having a great running back. Let's take another one. That should have nothing to do with the decision.
I agree 100%. And I agree with Dr. Locke's call 100%. Don't try to outthink the room here. If he's available, you take him. It really is that simple. And you don't take it given the history of the organization. I love Chris Johnson. I love Derrick Henry. I love Eddie George. I love all of these guys. But you don't take Jeremiah Love just because you've had success with the running back position in the past. You take Jeremiah Love at 4 because he's the best freaking player in the draft.
Yep. It's 100%. Just because you have had success with running backs in the past doesn't mean you're going to in the future. It's a different staff. It's a different front office. It's a different sport in a lot of ways from when Eddie George and Steve McNair played. I know a lot of people say that of like, oh, well, you took Steve one year and you took Eddie the next year. That led to a Super Bowl run. There's no correlation. Like it's the game 30 years ago is not the same as the game now. And if Jeremiah Love is a good player and is going to help this team, then take him. But the past history of your franchise shouldn't have anything to do with it. Anyway, I like Jeremiah Love. I'd have no problem if they take him at 4. But it should be because he's the best player on your board and the guy that you think is going to help your team, not because, well, running backs worked in the past year. Let's see if it'll work again. I did want to bring up one point here, and I saw this over the weekend. I don't think it's going to happen, but this is the first time I've actually seen it in a mock draft. Charles Davis of the NFL Network put out a mock draft. I believe this was on Friday, maybe Thursday, but it has Ty Simpson going in the top 3. And I don't think it's going to happen. I think Ty Simpson is going to be the Jackson Dart of this year's draft, of somebody's either going to trade up late in the first round or he's going to fall to somebody late, mid-late first round, and they'll take him. I don't think he goes in the top 3. But it was interesting to actually see somebody put him there in the mock draft, because sometimes that's all it takes is just you start to see a couple of mock drafts slide him into the top 3, and then boom, he's a top 3 pick just like that. So I thought that was interesting. It would make things a heck of a lot easier for the Titans. You'd have way more options if the Cardinals or the Jets go quarterback at 2 or 3. There's still a chance Cardinals go offensive line at 3 too, which would help you as well. But just giving you more options, whether it's Bailey, whether it's Reese, whether it's Love, that's going to help the Titans to get the best player they think is available in the draft.
Yeah, if you notice when I put out the tweet, because I was looking at the grid, the idea that Ty Simpson's going to sneak into the top 3, I just don't believe that. So I rephrased
Top
it
10.
a little bit. I said top 10 because I think that's a more reasonable conversation. Look, I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to fall to a team maybe like the New York Jets, because there's a lot of mutual interest between the two sides, and the Jets do have 2 first-round picks, so I can see them using their second on Ty Simpson, and I do not think that would be a reach, because we've had the Fernando Mendoza, Ty Simpson conversation.
Yeah.
In terms of pure arm talent, I can't deny what I've seen on Ty Simpson's film. I think the arm talent with Ty Simpson and the ceiling for Ty Simpson is higher than Fernando Mendoza. Now, Fernando Mendoza is going to be the first overall pick. There's no question about it. And he was rightfully the Heisman Trophy winner last year for a reason. But in terms of ceiling, in terms of pure arm talent, I think Ty Simpson's better in that category.
And Simpson, I think, might go higher than people anticipate. Like when we did our mock draft with Nick Frazier a couple weeks ago, I had the Bucs taking him at 15. I think somebody's going to take a chance on Simpson, maybe higher than Dart went last year, because Dart was what, 25? Somewhere in there?
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. The Giants traded up to get him. I think Simpson might go higher than that, but I just, at 2 or 3, I think that might be a reach. And I did write this down because we have gotten some people who have said, well, what if Simpson's still on the board at 4? Would somebody come trade up for Ty Simpson? And my thought process here is, if the Jets or Cardinals weren't willing to take him at 2 or 3, who's going to give up draft capital to move up to 4? Like, who are you moving ahead of? If you want Ty Simpson, you're going to have to probably move up to 2 to get him away, like to be safe. Because if you move up behind the Jets or Cardinals and he's still on the board, maybe the Browns take him, but we'll talk about the Browns quarterback situation in a little bit. I don't think the Browns are going to take him. And beyond the Browns, you'd have to go all the way down to Miami at 11 for a team that might take a quarterback. I know that everybody can jump up, but I don't see a scenario there where the Titans could take advantage of a Ty Simpson trade. I just think 4 is not a good spot for it to happen.
I don't think so either. I don't think – I honestly don't view Fernando Mendoza as the best player in this draft, and he's going to go number 1 overall. So I don't think the gap is so wide between Mendoza and Simpson that Mendoza is the first overall pick and Ty Simpson's falling to the second round. I just don't see it that way. But I still don't see Ty Simpson as being able to work his way into the top 4 and a team wanting to trade up for him. I just don't see that being the case.
The quarterback draft, though, always surprises us. 2 years ago, Michael Penix going 8th was a shocker. 2019, Daniel Jones going 6th was a shocker. How about, was it 2018? Was that the Baker Mayfield draft? Or was that?
Yes, I believe so.
2018 was the Baker Mayfield draft. Up until like 2 hours before the draft, Sam Darnold was the heavy odds-on favorite to go number 1 overall. And then the Browns flipped or at least in the eyes of the public, they flipped and went with Baker Mayfield. So we don't really know until draft night what's going to happen at quarterback. But Ty Simpson is definitely the wild card there that could change some things for the Titans at number 4. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. You can text or call. Our phone line's driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Let's give away some tickets. We are out here at First Horizon Park. The Sounds start their home season tonight. They're here all week, and we've got a 4-pack of tickets to see the Sounds take on the Knights, the AAA affiliate of the Chicago White Sox, at First Horizon Park on Thursday. First pitch at 6:35. Be caller number 3 right now, and you'll win a 4-pack of tickets to Sounds and Knights on Thursday night right here at First Horizon Park. 615-737-1025 is the number. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Next man up, 1025 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you on your Tuesday morning. I am out here at beautiful First Horizon Park. It's been fun watching them get the field ready for play. Home opener tonight, Sounds and Knights. We'll talk some baseball later this hour. But sticking with football, the NFL owners meetings going on out in Arizona. Robert Saleh did just speak to the media, and there was one quote I saw on Twitter during the break there. We talked about Mike Borgonzi's comments on the center and right guard competitions, and I thought this was interesting, and maybe we can play the clip later on. But Robert Saleh said he thinks it's going to be good competition across the board. He said the guys here right now have a leg up as they can get their footing over someone who's drafted. So that's back-to-back days where Borgonzi and Saleh have both mentioned bringing in a draft pick on the interior of the offensive line. So I think you may be able to earmark either 66 or 101 or one of those mid-round picks to be going to a center right guard prospect who can come in and compete immediately as a rookie.
Yeah, and a guy that, I've done a ton of mock drafts by this point, a guy that I'd be okay taking if you get Jeremiah Love, you get an edge rusher. Ideally, I'd like to get a pass catcher in the third round.
Yeah.
If you're somehow able to trade back in to day two, maybe a late third round, I'd love to go after Jake Slaughter in Florida. I've been very high on him for the last couple of years when he was in Gainesville. I'd love to have him, groom him, develop him, and hopefully he can be your center, going forward. But again, we just have to see how this all plays out. That's my perfect world, though.
There are a lot of names that have been put out there for the Titans, linking them to interior offensive line prospects. Slaughter has been a popular one out of Florida. We saw yesterday Matt Miller had Chase Besantis. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but the guard out of Texas A&M. And then Keelan Rutledge out of Georgia Tech has also been talked about as well. So there will be options, but interesting, back-to-back days, Borgonzi and Saleh both mentioned the idea of bringing in a draft pick to compete at center or right guard. The owners' meetings have been interesting the last couple of days. There's been some storylines that have come out of there, and let's get to some of those. I just saw Aaron Glenn talking about Geno Smith. Did you see this, Parker?
I haven't.
Aaron Glenn said, Geno Smith is going to be the quarterback that gets us to the promised land.
Is that so?
Apparently. It didn't work the first time. And, the endless amount of quarterbacks they've tried since, they weren't the guy. But Geno Smith coming back in the twilight of his career. Super Bowl coming for the Jets.
Yeah, almost led the league in turnovers last year. Actually, he might have. Did he not?
Again, it's one of those things that we talk about these little sound bites from coaches, and it's like, what else do you want them to say? They're not going to just say, yeah, Geno
you could
Smith
be high on Geno. Just don't say he's going to lead you to the promise.
Right.
We all know that's not going to happen.
It was just such an over-exaggeration that it's hilarious. Like, yeah, you can say, yeah, we're excited for Geno to be back. We think he's a good, talented quarterback who can steady the ship for us, stuff like that. But he's going to lead us to the promised land. I guess it's better than Aaron Glenn saying, oh, no, we brought him back just so we can tank and be in position to take Arch Manning next year. So
there are coaches all across the NFL that are never going to downplay, the guys in their organization publicly. Right. But when you over-exaggerate like that, it just puts unnecessary pressure on you,
Exactly.
Man. You're a first-time head coach, too. Don't do that to yourself.
I think the Titans have done a nice job with the Will Levis questions the last couple of days. I just listened to Robert Saleh's answer on it. Mike Borgonzi spoke on it. And he's getting traded, right? You don't go and spend $5 million a year on Mitch Trubisky if he's going to be your backup or your third quarterback. And, I don't think you stick Will Levis on the roster just to be your third quarterback. So he's getting traded. But the Titans have done a nice job of saying, hey, Will Levis, he's going to be in there and add some great competition to our room. Yeah, you're lying through your teeth, but you're also not raising the expectations or lowering the expectations. You're saying the coach speak that everybody expects you to. A couple other things that came out of owners' meetings. The one that I laughed out is Jimmy Haslam, the owner of the Browns. He said last year around this time that the Deshaun Watson trade was a swing and a miss, and that got a lot of headlines. But now he said that Deshaun Watson has an opportunity this year to turn a swing and a miss into a home run. And that one made me laugh too. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if Deshaun Watson is the starting quarterback for the Browns this year. And I'm prepared for all of the Shedeur Sanders fans to hop onto the text line. We've gotten a couple of those throughout the last few weeks when we bring up Shedeur Sanders. I wouldn't be shocked if Deshaun Watson is the starting quarterback for the Browns. But a home run is off the table. He has already struck out 3 times, and he's coming to the plate for his 4th at-bat. Now, there's a chance that he's able to salvage it and draw a walk or something, but it is definitely not going to be a home run for Deshaun Watson with the contract you gave.
You can get a single. It's about
it. Right. He's coming to the plate. He struck out 3 times, and you're down 8 runs in the top of the 9th inning. Like game is over. Deshaun Watson's not going to change anything, but I do think that he can at least salvage something and come out and play some okay football. But like, when's the last time that Deshaun Watson played more than 6 games in succession? It was before he got traded, right?
Maybe.
I mean, he had the one season where he played a decent amount. I want to see, like, what has he done since he's been with the Browns? So since he got traded, he has not played more than 7 games in a season. He played 6 in 2022. That was the year he was suspended for 11 games. 2023, he played 6. And then 2024, he played 7 before the injury. So he has not played more than half a season in 3 years with the Browns and missed all of last year. I don't think he's going to come back out and be Deshaun Watson that we saw in 2020, who had 4,800 yards and 33 touchdowns. He might be okay, and he might be the starting quarterback, but a home run I thought was funny. I mean, again, it's just these owners, coaches, they draw unnecessary attention to their comments by over-exaggerating like that. You could just say Deshaun Watson's going to have a chance to compete for the starting quarterback job, but to say could be a home run, crazy.
Geno Smith going to lead us to the promised land, baby.
Promised
Let's
land.
go.
Get ready. Prepare. Browns, Jets, AFC Championship. Deshaun Watson, Geno Smith going at it for a spot in the Super Bowl.
T-S. Jets.
Well, it was funny, too. Haslam referenced Sam Darnold as a reason why Deshaun Watson could have success this year. And everybody references Sam Darnold as this, oh, well, he could be the next Sam Darnold. Look at Malik Willis. Malik Willis started 3 games last year. Deshaun Watson hasn't played a full season since COVID. Those guys are not Sam Darnold, who won 14 games with the Vikings the year before he was a free agent, right? Like, it is not comparable in any way, but that's always the way you point is, oh, well, he could be Sam Darnold. He could revive his career from the ashes. Well, Deshaun Watson, the proof of concept is 6 years ago. For Sam Darnold, it was 2 months ago when he signed that contract. So I thought those 2 comments were funny from the owners' meetings out in Arizona. We can get into a couple more things, including the Super Bowl. Officially, the Super Bowl in 2029 is going to Las Vegas, but there's a lot of buzz that the next one in 2030 could be right across the Cumberland at the new Nissan Stadium. We'll get into that. Also, the Hard Knocks team has been announced for this year. We can talk about that as well, and much more coming up. Again, Andrew Allegretta, voice of Vanderbilt Baseball, will join us at 11:30. We'll talk some Preds later on in the show and much more. Live out here at First Horizon Park, Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. 1025 The Game and Team Boxing League have your chance to win a pair of VIP tickets as the Nashville Smack take on the Phoenix Fury at Municipal Auditorium on Friday, April 17th. You can text the keyword FIGHT, F-I-G-H-T, to the game text line at 615-737-1025 to enter to win. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 1025 The Game. Going through all the happenings out at the NFL team meetings in Phoenix, Arizona. And with that, let's go to our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Kenny, the mailman, has called in. Kenny, what's going on?
Jay, I don't mean any harm whatsoever. Are y'all broadcasting in the middle of a bird sanctuary?
Yes, we are, apparently. That has been the buzz all morning with Robbie and now me. We've got birds everywhere flying about and making themselves known on the airwaves.
I didn't know if you could hear it there, but it sounds like you're in the bird house at the Nashville Zoo over the radio. It's hilarious.
I know. I need to bring out my master's voice. Hello, friends. Welcome.
There you go.
To
Very
First Horizon
peaceful.
Park.
By the way, do you know Jim Nance lives in Nashville?
I did know that. Yes.
Yeah, we've seen him a couple of times at the post office. He's very nice. I just wanted to suggest this. It's not only the draft choice. The Titans need so much. I call it the talent infusion. And they have a chance right here with a lot of money. There's a lot of guys that thought they were going to get a lot of money, and they didn't sign. Would you agree with that so far? Free agent.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
Between now and the draft, the teams have a little bit of a window where they say, you didn't get what you wanted, but we can give you this amount, or we're going to draft a player that plays your position. Are you willing to sign? Because right after the draft, it will revert back to the player having power, saying, well, you didn't draft this position.
Right.
I'm worth more than you're willing to pay. So I'm hoping in this small little window, the Titans will stay diligent, aware, and be willing to sign one or two. I don't care if they're backup players or anything like that. They just need a huge talent infusion. At the end of last year, there were about 6 guys, to be honest, that should have been selling insurance on that team instead of playing.
Oh,
well,
for
listen,
sure.
y'all have a great day.
Yeah, thank you for the call, Kenny. No, the depth of the Titans roster was tested at the end of last season, especially in the secondary. There were some names that I did not know were on the team when I turned on the TV on Sunday. So definitely need to address that, and now is the time to do so. Jauan Jennings is a name that's been popular out there, and I know that his agent commented yesterday and said that they're willing to take less than what they expected at this point to try and find a team. I don't know how much less. They mentioned 15 to 20 million was the market they were looking for in the initial wave of free agency. Clearly didn't get that. I don't think Jauan Jennings is a fit here, considering you brought back Calvin Ridley. The Kevin Zeitler one is the interesting one because there's been a lot of buzz that the Titans want him back. I do wonder if Zeitler is holding out to see if a more competitive team is willing to bring him in. He's at the end of his career. He's 36 years old. Maybe he wants a chance to go win a Super Bowl. And if he's being honest with himself, he probably realizes the Titans aren't the best place to go do that in 2026. So maybe he's holding out. He still wants to play, wants to see if somebody else comes in with an offer, and the Titans are kind of just waiting to see if he ends up rejoining the team. That's the one that I'd keep an eye on for the Titans in terms of free agents who can come in and immediately start. Let's go back to the phone lines. Adam in Portland is called in. Adam, thanks for calling. Good morning.
I don't like following Kenny because he's my favorite caller, and it always makes me sound terrible. But, hey, check this out, man. I got 2 things for you. Number one, I don't necessarily love you and Parker going Mean Girls on Geno Smith. I think he is one of the best stories in the NFL in the last 10 years is him being able to resurrect his career after everybody thought he was dead. And I say that to say I still think he's going to flunk out with the Jets. Like he's good enough if he's in a good situation, but he can't be the guy. Like we see that a lot. But that's not my primary reason for calling. You mentioned Zeitler. I keep getting attacked online about this, man. Like these Titans groups I'm in, I thought Zeitler sucked last year. Apparently he was one of the best pass blocking guards in the league, but I didn't see that. I saw a veteran who false started all the time and was missing and whiffing here and there. I mean, tell me what I'm missing with that. Am I wrong on that? Because it felt like he wasn't very good, but people are just killing me online about it.
Yeah, Adam, I think it's one of those things where what you watched and the numbers don't really match up. I saw the same thing you saw. It was a data chart that showed the lowest whiff rate or lowest unblocked rate, whatever it was, where he gave up a pressure rate. Maybe that's what it was. And he was the lowest among right guards. And I was like, yeah, I don't remember seeing that. But if that's what the numbers say, so I agree with you. I don't think the numbers quite match the eye test. I do think the one main reason to bring Zeitler back is to help J.C. Latham. I would much rather have veteran Kevin Zeitler next to J.C. Latham to help him out with sorting out stunts and games that the defensive line are playing and blitzes rather than Jackson Slater or Cordell Volson or a rookie. I just think that is the advantage of Zeitler. Is I don't think he was horrible last year. I don't think he was great. He clearly wasn't an all-pro level player, but I do think the ability to help J.C. Latham continue to develop and also give J.C. Latham some continuity there. Like, this will be 3 straight years with someone new next to him at right guard. Well, he was at left tackle his first year, but with someone new playing next to him, I think giving him some continuity would be helpful. I agree. Zeitler it's not like he is one of the 5 best guards in the league, but I do think it helps you with continuity, and it's better than what you currently have at that position.
Can I address the Mean Girls? That's the first time I've ever been compared to a Mean Girl, which
I guess we're Regina George, Parker.
Yeah, so I'm not, we all know that they wrote Geno Smith off and he didn't write back. And it's been a great story. Like, I'm not hating on Geno. I just hate the fact that Aaron Glenn has got to have a little common sense here as a head coach. The season that Geno Smith just came off of, and do you really believe New York is the place where a quarterback is going to right the ship and lead you to a Super Bowl? Like, that's just so much of a stretch.
Yeah, and I agree with what Adam said.
Love Geno. I wish nothing but the best for him.
Geno Smith's story is one of the best that we've seen because he wasn't just written off. Like, they wrote me off. I didn't write back. Like, he wasn't just written off. He was condemned to being a backup for his entire career. That's basically what he was told is, hey, you're going to be a backup. And the Mitch Trubisky life that we're seeing now, like Mitch Trubisky is signing places solely to be a backup. That's what Geno Smith was. And he came out and led the Seahawks to the playoffs. Like, very impressive stuff from Geno Smith. It was less about Geno than it was Aaron Glenn saying he's going to lead them to the promised land. Like, it's just that.
Come on, Aaron Glenn.
Maybe the promised land for New York fans is like 6 wins. Like, maybe we haven't considered that. Is they've been so bad that maybe getting to like 6-11, that's the promised land for the New York Jets.
And I thought Aaron Glenn did a phenomenal job as the defensive coordinator of the Lions with all the injuries that they had, and he still had them playing like a top 15 unit. So I was really happy that he got a head coaching job in New York. But I don't know how true this is. I don't know if the Jets were considering firing him after year 1. But if you come out and you make comments like that and this backfires on you, you're going to be a laughingstock.
Well, that's what Trevor just texted into the text line. He said Geno Smith's about to get Aaron Glenn fired mid-season. Yeah, like that's how it goes.
Pete Carroll brought Geno over to Las Vegas because there was some continuity there, and look how that turned out for him. He was a one and done.
It seems like the new GM there, is it Bougie? I'm blanking on the guy's name.
The guy that came over from the
Muji.
Yeah.
Darren Muji. It seems like he is on a certain timeline with this team, and maybe he has an agreement with ownership on, hey, the timeline is going to be a little extended. We're not ready to take the next step yet. I don't know if Aaron Glenn has been put on that same timeline. I don't know if Glenn is going to last the full season in New York, considering what they've given him. But you have 5 first-round picks in the next 2 years. So I think Muji feels pretty good about his job security if he hits on some of those. But with Aaron Glenn, yeah, probably going to be another rough season up there in New York for the Jets. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We've got much more coming up on the show. Again, Andrew Allegretta, the voice of Vanderbilt baseball, going to join us at 11:30. Talk about a big weekend for the Vandy boys, who have now walked off 7 of their last 10 SEC games at home. Crazy crazy stat. We'll talk to Andrew coming up at 11:30. We will also be joined by Doug Scopel of the Nashville Sounds at some point. So excited about that. We are here at First Horizon Park. Nashville Sounds home opener against the Charlotte Knights, 6:35 tonight. We'll talk some baseball, we'll talk some Preds, and much more before the end of the show. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game, Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly. I am live out here at First Horizon Park. Sounds and Knights starting off the home season for the Nashville Sounds tonight, 6:35 first pitch. We will be out here all day long, excited for baseball to finally be back in Hit City. We'll talk a lot of baseball in the final hour, but a couple more things to get to from the owners' meetings out in Arizona. I mentioned Super Bowl. Officially, the 2029 Super Bowl has been given back to Las Vegas, so they will get their second Super Bowl in 5 years, 6 years, 5 years, 6 years since their first one. And a lot of buzz around the Titans possibly hosting the Super Bowl in 2030 over at the new Nissan Stadium. And that's kind of been the timeline that I expected. You get a couple seasons in the new stadium, and then you get the Super Bowl. But what we've seen with this rotation that they've had lately with Atlanta and LA and now Las Vegas, usually stadiums that get the Super Bowl once get the second one in pretty short order after. So I think this is possibly what we're looking at, a Super Bowl in 2030, number one for Nashville, and then maybe another one in the mid-2030s after that if we look further down the road.
I want a Super Bowl. I want a Final Four. I think Nashville is the perfect city to host a lot of those things. Everybody's moving here because they love it. So hopefully we get news on that soon. But I think Nashville would knock it out of the park. They knocked the draft out of the park. They knocked the Super Bowl out of the park. I believe they do the same with the Final Four.
Yeah, typically there's not a whole lot of surprises when it comes to this stuff. Like Vegas has been the rumored destination pretty much since this point last year. And immediately after Vegas was officially given the 2029 Super Bowl, all the buzz is it Nashville for 2030? And I believe Amy Adams Strunk and Burke Nihill did a presentation on the new stadium at the owners' meetings yesterday. So it seems like that is the way it's trending. Nothing guaranteed yet. That'll probably be handed out about a year from now. But excited. Super Bowl coming to Nashville possibly in 2030. And, of course, like you mentioned, other events going to come with that, whether that's Final Four or WrestleMania or
College football playoff.
College football playoff games. There's going to be a ton of big events that come with that new Nissan Stadium. We also got the Hard Knocks teams, not just for this year, but for the next 2 years in the summer, have been announced. And it is the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks who are going to be featured on Hard Knocks this summer. It's a little bit strange to see that when I know the rules previously had been if you're a playoff team, if you have a new head coach, all this kind of stuff, as we've now got some music in the background here to go with the birds.
In the bird sanctuary.
Yeah, the bird sanctuary, and now we got some music. The way I look at it is the Seahawks, yeah, that's an entertaining team, but man, I'm a little surprised that Hard Knocks went with the defending Super Bowl champs, even with the more lax rules that were put in place last year.
Yeah, I was a little surprised by that as well. I think what people are going to try to garner from all this is how Mike McDonald was, in year one, they didn't make the playoffs. To year two, they're Super Bowl champs. So I think a lot of teams are going to try to garner what's the blueprint to doing that? How did they build the team? How did they get to that point? I'm really excited for it, honestly, because I'm a big fan of Mike McDonald. So I'm really looking forward to it. And then we get Vrabel in the spotlight next summer. Have they ever announced it 2 years in advance?
No, which is so strange. Usually it's right around now you get the next one. And then they've done the in-season Hard Knocks where last year they focused on one division, right? Like they did the whole AFC North or something like that. But yeah, they've announced summer 2026 coming up in a couple of months is going to be the Seahawks. And then next year will be the Patriots. And you're right. Mike Vrabel in the spotlight on Hard Knocks. I'm sure that is going to be milked for all it's worth by the NFL of all of the Vrabelisms that we are going to hear on Hard Knocks next summer.
I can't wait. Did you see the video of Vrabel? Was it either the defensive or offensive lineman at Arizona State?
Yeah.
He was getting involved in the drills. I am so excited to see that on Hard Knocks.
He just can't help himself.
No
He
other
really
coach
can't.
does that, and I love it.
Well, and last year, the big thing with Vrabel was when he jumped into that the fight in the joint practices and got all bloodied up, and that was the headline. Oh, look at the football guy, Mike Vrabel. Well, Robert Saleh did make a comment on joint practices during his media availability today. And he said the Titans are not going to do 1, not 2, but 3 joint practices. At least that's the plan. They're trying to do joint practices for all 3 of their preseason games, but only 1 day each. He said day 2 usually just devolves into a lot of fighting. I think that's a really smart way to do it. You're getting very similar amounts of reps against opposite teams. You're getting to spread those out against different teams if you're doing them with all 3. And you're not having those back-to-back days where the guys start to get chippy towards the end of day 2. And Robert Saleh's right. Usually you start to see, maybe not full-on fist fights, but brawls and all that kind of stuff. So I like that idea from Robert Saleh. It's a little different than what we've seen in the past in terms of joint practices.
Yeah, and I'm sure this is because he only mentioned, and maybe I'm just reading in between the lines a little bit too much, but he only mentioned 2.
I thought he said they were going to try and do 2 at home and then 1 on the road. So all 3 of their
maybe
games.
I misunderstood that. Yeah,
maybe I misread it. I know he said that they've officially requested the Panthers as a team to play in the preseason and do a joint practice with, but I think all of that news comes out in the next couple of weeks leading up to the full schedule reveal in May. So we'll find out about that. But I thought that was an interesting way to approach it from Robert Saleh is, hey, we're going to do 3. We're going to do joint practices with all of the teams we face in the preseason.
As many reps as you can get in the preseason.
Right, but limit it to 1 day each instead of the 2 days back-to-back, which it can be a lot. It can be a lot, especially in the heat of August. Like, guys lose their tempers pretty quickly, and you may not end up getting the most out of those second days. Whereas when you do it 3 straight weeks against 3 different teams, you may be able to get the most value out of those reps, even if you're getting 1 less total day. So the owners' meetings continuing to roll along out there in Phoenix, and Robert Saleh and Mike Borgonzi both spoke to the media. They don't say a whole lot in these interviews, right? Like, a lot of it is, this is lying season. It's smokescreen season. They are trying to keep their cards close to their vest, but I do think we got a decent amount of insight into the moves that they made so far in the offseason and what things are going to look like moving forward. But, it's going to be one of those things, Parker, where every single time we hear those guys speak leading up to the draft, you're going to be trying to see if they drop any little nuggets to tell you who they're dropping it for. But we're really not going to know until draft day in just over 3 weeks.
Right, but there will be plenty of speculation to go around, as you already know, as we've been talking about since December.
And that's what we do. We speculate here. And, we've gone through every single scenario. Corey Curtis, actually, who's going to be on tomorrow, Corey texted me last night with a mock draft that he came up with. I was saying, we usually do our simulator stuff with Nick Frazier. I kind of want to do it with Corey.
That would be fun.
Put me and Corey in a war room together and see if we
fun.
can we actually agree on picks? Like,
under 2 arguments.
I would say at least 2.
Yeah.
At least 2 of it, if he's Mike Borgonzi and I'm Robert Saleh, it's like, can we actually agree on a pick? So maybe we'll do that tomorrow on the show. As draft season continues to roll along. Officially will be April tomorrow. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. We'd love to hear from you. You can text or call on our phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. We've got 1 more hour on this Tuesday live from First Horizon Park. We will talk some baseball, because it's beautiful weather for a baseball game today. So we'll talk about baseball. We'll have Andrew Allegretta on from Vanderbilt Baseball as they prepare for their game against Belmont tonight after sweeping Tennessee over the weekend. And we will also talk some Preds. All that coming up in hour number 3. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5, the game, hour number 3 on your Tuesday morning. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. I am live at First Horizon Park. The Nashville Sounds have their home opener tonight against the Charlotte Knights, 6:35 p.m. first pitch, and you can listen in on the game or come out. It is a beautiful day here at the ballpark, and we are thrilled now to be joined by Assistant GM and Vice President of Operations, Doug Scopel. Doug, thanks for taking some time. You literally could not script a better day for baseball.
Yeah, thanks, Jake. Glad to be here. And you're right. This is gorgeous. I'll take this weather for all 75 days if we can get it this year.
100%. And it's an exciting season for this team. The Brewers, we had Jeff Hem on the show last week, and I thought he made a great point that the Brewers do a great job of threading the needle. They're competitive at the major league level, but they also have one of the best, if not the best, farm system in baseball. So there's a lot of talent that's going to be on the field for the Sounds this season.
Yeah, we've been blessed to be affiliated with the Brewers for a long time. And that's right. Them being a small market club, they really rely on the progress of their own homegrown talent up through the system.
Right.
Well, we're a huge beneficiary of that. If anybody that's been a Sounds fan for the last decade knows they're pretty much Brewer fans now, because almost all the guys that are on those teams that have won 3 straight NL Central titles are Sounds. I think last year we had, I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I feel like 2/3 of their roster also played here at some point.
Right, and you got to see them go all the way to the NLCS and saw tons of Sounds participating in the WBC this year. So the guys you're seeing here at First Horizon Park, you're going to be seeing on TV very soon, including just saw Cooper Pratt, who is here on the team right now. He just signed an 8-year extension before he even steps foot on a big league field, which is really cool.
That's a really cool thing. The Brewers, again, small market, they've got to look at the way that they kind of manage their finances. They did the same thing with Jackson Churio a few years ago, and that's turned out to be a good start. And obviously they put a lot of value in Cooper. Our fans will be seeing him for the very first time tonight. He's never been above AA until this year. So we're excited to see him. I've met him, chatted with him. It seems like a great guy, and look forward to seeing what he does on the ball field.
Well, and take advantage of it too, because I remember Jackson Churio. He was only here for about a week, and he was that good that he went up to the big leagues pretty quick. So take advantage of seeing these great players while they're here in Nashville. Again, we're talking with Doug Scopel from the Nashville Sounds for home opener tonight against the Charlotte Knights. And of course, when you talk about the Sounds, you have to start with Rick Sweet, one of the greatest managers of all time in the minor leagues. He is 92 wins away from the all-time record of managerial wins in the minor leagues. How special is it to get to work with him every day? Such a legend who it makes things easier for everybody, I'm sure, around here.
Yeah, I don't know in this world how many people could say they've got 50 years of service time in whatever their industry is.
Right.
And we're blessed to have that with Rick Sweet. Just a true pro, old school guy, does it the right way. Players like him. Our staff loves working with him. And yeah, I mean, he's that close to setting a record that this minor league baseball has been around for 150 plus years.
Yeah.
It's insane to think that he very well could be that guy very soon. And we're just happy to be part of that journey.
And hoping he can get it this year. It's a lot of wins, but it's very possible. It's been done before. So rooting for Sweetie to get it done this season. And of course, you come out, you get to see great talent on the field, but there's so much more that goes into coming to a Sounds game. This place, it doesn't matter if you're on a date night or you're out with friends or you're bringing your family. There's always something for somebody here at First Horizon Park.
That's the beauty of what we get to do here at First Horizon Park, but also minor league baseball in general. It's 75 unique experiences that if you come to 2 different games on the year, it's going to be 2 completely different things. Even if you come out on 2 different fireworks nights, we program so many different things on every night that no matter what your background is or why you're here, whether you're here with the family or on a date or with your company, there's something for everybody in here. And a lot of people that come here the first time don't even see everything or get to do everything.
Right.
And our staff takes a ton of pride in putting the research and dedication and planning into this. And today's a great day for us because we've all been sitting on all this fun for 6 months since we've seen our fans, and now they get to come see what we've got to roll out for them for 2026.
And I was listening, Robbie had on a guest, Christopher Jones came on and was talking about some of the out-of-the-box promotions that you guys do, which you talk about. It's minor league baseball, and you have to sometimes think away from the normal of, dollar hot dog night and the stuff that everybody does. You guys have been very creative in the way that you've built these promotions.
Yeah, and Christopher and his team obviously are the ones behind driving all of that. And I think, it's a good charge for us. We want to be a ballpark that's welcoming to everybody. And so we try to cater to all different pockets of potential fans here in Nashville, Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, wherever people are coming from. and make sure that there's something for them here. And we've got a lot of people that do a lot of work on those things to make it all work and fun here.
Well, today, opening day, always a great day to come out to the park, but also fireworks after the game. Feels like there isn't a much better time to come out to First Horizon Park than today to get the season started.
Yeah, I mean, it's what is it? Almost 80 degrees
I think
today.
it's going to be in the 80s all day long.
Sun's out. I mean, it's truly the way to. We're not always blessed with this weather on opening day. I watch the weather, and this is, I think, only the third time in 13 years this ballpark's been around that we haven't had rain. So I'm knocking on wood and very blessed that this has happened today. But yes, you're right, Jake. It's we're starting the season with a bang, a lot of fun promotions this week, and they just keep on coming. It's not like we get them out of the way and then it's a lull. I mean, it's always something out here.
Right. And it's great that the series are now week long. So it's nice and easy. Look at the schedule. All right, this week the Sounds are here. This week they're on the road. And each week it's nice that you have a specific theme for each day, whether it's the Tito's Tail Wagging Tuesdays and you bring the dogs out, or the Throwback Thursdays with throwback drink prices. Every single day has a different kind of twist on a reason to come to the ballpark.
It is. All that's on our website, nationalsounds.com, and on our social medias. I could reel them off, but we'd be here for an hour. But it's a combination of giveaways and just all the things you just said. I mean, we cater to kids, to families. We have special groups that come out. We cater specific event nights around them, and that's part of the fun we get to do, and we love it.
Well, Doug, we appreciate you taking some time with us. Excited to start the home slate tonight against Sounds and night 6:35 out here at First Horizon Park. And thanks again for having us out. It's a beautiful day. Come out and watch some baseball.
Yeah, glad to have you and look forward to a great season here at the ballpark.
Doug Scopel from the Nashville Sounds joining us here live at First Horizon Park. We will react. We'll talk some baseball on the other side. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. I am live at First Horizon Park in Germantown. Nashville Sounds home opener tonight, 6:35 against the Charlotte Knights. And a big thanks to Doug Scopel, the assistant GM and vice president of operations, for joining us in the last segment. Always great stuff about what the Sounds are putting on the field, first of all, but also all of the promotions for all of you coming out to the games this season. So excited to get the home slate underway again, 6:35 tonight. Parker is back at the Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning Game Nashville Studios, home of the $99 yearly Beehive membership, where the buzz is always about great service. We'll bounce around a little bit here. Andrew Allegretta from Vanderbilt Baseball is going to join us at the bottom of the hour, talking about the sweep over the Vols this weekend. 3 straight days, 3 straight walk-offs. We'll get into that with Andrew coming up next. But let's talk Sounds here, Parker. I mean, it really is cool with Rick Sweet being the manager to be able to say that you have not just one of the best minor league managers at the moment, but one of the best minor league managers of all time. Like, as Doug just told us, minor league baseball has been around for 150 plus years, and you've got, maybe by the time of the end of his career, the winningest minor league manager of all time in your city. It's unbelievable to be able to think about the scale of the amount of games that he has managed and the amount of games he's won.
Yeah. And I knew that Rick Sweet was one of the greatest minor league coaches of all time. And when I was producing games for Jeff, he would talk about that. I didn't realize how close he was to being the all-time winningest coach in minor league history. What is it, 92 wins away?
Yes, 92 wins away. And like, the number is astronomical. I looked it up last week, and I wanted to see, it's over 2,000 wins in his career. Like Doug said, he's got 50 years of experience as a minor league baseball manager. That is just absolutely insane.
Unbelievable. And having the number one farm system, and it's just so funny because you hear these guys, right? Like Jacob Mizorowski, and seeing what he's doing. Was he the Brewers' day one starter this year?
Yes. Yeah. He started opening day.
Unbelievable. The farm system has just been phenomenal for the Nashville Sounds. I really loved kind of the culture that they've built in that clubhouse, and just they just have things clicking. It's great to see.
Yeah, 2,300 wins for Rick Sweet in his career, and he's been managing minor league baseball since 1987. Ridiculous stuff. So if you're looking for a reason to come out and watch the Sounds, you got plenty, whether it's the in-game experience, the bandbox in right field, all of the kid stuff down the right field line, whether it's mini golf or, you can test your velocity on the pitching machine over there.
I've never done that before, but I have not either. I need to try.
I might have to try. I might need
Tommy
John afterwards.
Yeah.
But, we might have to give it a shot. So you got all that. And then, of course, the Sounds are going to put a good product on the field with Rick Sweet as their manager. And we talked through some of the talent. I mean, Cooper Pratt's a top 100 prospect. Jet Williams is a top 100 prospect. Brock Wilkins, a former first-round pick. Tyler Black was a top 100 prospect who has played plenty of games for the Brewers. I mean, that's just in the lineup. And then you've got other guys like Robert Gasser in the rotation, and Carlos Rodriguez and Drew Rom. Like, there are lots of good players to come out and watch too. So excited for the Sound season to be here. They played 3 games over the weekend out in Norfolk, and now finally back home. They'll play today through Sunday against the Charlotte Knights for their first home series of the year. Sticking with baseball here, Parker, I'm sure you saw Tony Vitello got his first managerial win last night. So Tony V is on the board after being swept by the Yankees in his opening series, but he now has a win, beating the Padres last night. It's way too early for any kind of judgment on Tony Vitello. Like, he could still end up being a great major league manager, right? We're 4 games in. I'm not trying to make any wide sweeping judgments off of 4 games in the first 162 game season of his career. But it is interesting to look at Tony Vitello and just see, is this experiment going to work? I think a lot of people would guess no. And the question becomes, if it doesn't work and he's let go or he moves on and comes back to college baseball, would it be with the Vols, right? Like, would he go back to Tennessee, or does he go back to somebody else in the SEC? Or maybe he stays on the West Coast. There's plenty of great baseball out there too. It would be a very interesting dilemma for a lot of teams of, if he ends up flaming out in the big league level, Who's going hard after Tony Vitello to become their next manager back in college?
Corey presented the doomsday scenario to
Of
me
Arkansas.
last week. Yeah, Arkansas, even Vanderbilt being in that would just be the ultimate doomsday. I'm not ready to have that conversation yet. I know a lot of people think that this is not going to work just because it's never happened before. So that, and to me, that's just way too soon, way too early. We've never seen it before. So to be honest, nobody knows how this is going to work out. And Tony Vitello portrayed himself almost as a villain in college baseball. He was respected certainly for the job that he did at Tennessee, but kind of the I don't know what the right word is, but the way the team played, it kind of gave off that villain persona. But I feel like now that he's in the major leagues, as a sports fan, you have to root for this to work regardless of how you felt about him at Tennessee, because if it does work, that's going to bridge the gap for more college coaches to be able to be managers at the major league level.
Yeah, I would say it's one of the rare sports where there just isn't a whole lot of crossover there. You're either a college coach or you're a professional coach. Like, you don't see a whole lot of, oh, this college coach at Oregon State is leaving to go become a manager in the for the AAA team of the Mariners, right? Like, there's just not a whole lot of crossover there. And there's not a ton in basketball too. You see some of it. I mean, Billy Donovan's the one big one of, like, he was obviously a great college coach and has been an NBA coach for well over a decade now. But baseball is one where you just don't see teams go out of the box because they are completely different sports in the way that you need to manage those teams. In college baseball, it's way more about recruiting. And that's why I was skeptical about this move, is that Tony Vitello was able to relate to that age, that era of baseball player, the 18 to 22-year-olds. And you're still getting some of those at the major league level. Is his, I'll say shtick for lack of a better word, going to work with 35-year-old 10-year veterans in the MLB? Is he going to be able to get the most out of those players? And without the advantage of being able to recruit his players, can he elevate a team to be a playoff contender in the San Francisco Giants? That's a good team. They've got good players on that team. I am very interested to see how this plays out. They're 1-3. We are 2% of the way through the season. So there's no way to make any kind of sweeping judgments. But
quick math on your part.
Yes. Yeah. What? 4 divided by 40, 2.5%. There you go.
Like that.
Or 4 divided by 160. Whatever. Tony Vitello, it's an experiment. And I understand it from the Giants' perspective of, we're competing with the LA Dodgers, who are going to spend way more money than us, and the Padres, who have proven they're going to spend more money, and they're not afraid to go out and trade away all of their future, their farm system, to go get players who can help them right now. So if you're the Giants or the Diamondbacks or the Rockies might be in their own little world over there at Coors Field. But if you're the Giants or the Diamondbacks and you're not going to spend all that money, and your front office isn't willing to trade away and mortgage the future to win now, you've got to find out of the box ways to win. And Tony Vitello is certainly that. So they're 1-3 now. Way too early to make any judgments, but I am interested to see if this works out. And if it doesn't, where does Tony Vitello end up after the experiment is over? Does he go back to Tennessee, which as of right now, Josh Elander hasn't exactly been great there, and maybe there's an opening in a year or two, but Tony Vitello is going to have options to be able to explore if he's trying to come back to the college ranks. So I think that could be something that we're looking at a couple years down the road.
I will say it is very easy if you follow Vol baseball to be freaked out right now. But just a reminder, this team in 23, I think lost I don't know how many SEC series are in a season.
10.
Think lost 5 of them. And ended up being a 2 or 3 seed in the Clemson Regional and ended up going to the College World Series that year. So there's proof in performance. And what you're doing is, yeah, you don't have Tony Vitello there, but I talked to John Wilkerson last week and asked him, because the reason so many fans wanted Josh Elander to get the job was because he had been patiently waiting. He was with Vitello at a couple different stops before Tennessee, but he handled a large majority of the recruiting. So
Right.
it's not like that is going to drop off or fall off. He's still going to recruit well out of high school. He's still going to recruit well from the transfer portal, but now you're the person in charge of making all of the decisions in game. That's something that he has not done to this extent. So I don't think it's time to freak out. I still think the pieces are in place. So still a long season to go.
Yes, very long season to go. Tennessee getting swept over the weekend by Vanderbilt. And we did touch on this yesterday, but what a crazy, crazy series up there at Hawkins Field. I mean, to have an extra innings win in game one, walk off for Vanderbilt. It was a home run, wasn't it, on the first day?
I think so.
I think it was a home run. The second day, Saturday.
Wait. No. I don't think
it was a base hit. It was a
base
single.
hit.
Yeah, it was Johnstone had the single on Friday night to beat Tennessee. Then on Saturday, one of the craziest games you will ever see. It was 5-0 Vanderbilt. Then Tennessee answered back with 5 of their own in one inning. And that score stuck all the way until the 16th inning when Vanderbilt put on a squeeze with the bases loaded in the bottom of the 16th to walk it off. And then on Sunday, Vanderbilt and Tennessee, with a lot of their pitching had been expended at that point, right? It's Sunday. Vanderbilt went all out to make sure they could win the series on Saturday. Tennessee kind of went all out to try and salvage it and see if they could force a rubber match on Sunday. And it showed. 16-15 the final score, but Vanderbilt scored 6 runs in the bottom of the 9th to win that game, including a walk-off grand slam from Mac Wickholm. What a weekend, and it really does flip the way you feel about those teams. Vanderbilt was coming off a tough weekend at Mississippi State, got swept by a top 10 Bulldogs team. Tennessee had played all right to that point through 2 weekends. I believe they were 3-3, but that sweep there, Vanderbilt now back above 500 in the SEC at 5-4, and Tennessee falls to 3-6. Those two teams, again, early in the season, still not even halfway through the SEC schedule, but that was a big result for both of those teams in 3 straight games that really could have gone either way.
Yeah, and now if you're Tennessee, you have to quickly rebound because you have LSU coming into town next weekend. Granted, this is not the same LSU team that won the national title last year, but they still can be tricky and difficult. We saw that with Vanderbilt, right? Vanderbilt has not been the same team that got the number 1 overall seed last year. I mean, they've really struggled. What was it, 14-12, 13-12, something like that, entering the Tennessee series? So getting a sweep against your arch rival is a huge confidence boost. I don't think either one of these teams is going to host a regional, but they're certainly going to be in contention to make that baseball tournament at the end of the year.
Yep, I think both these teams probably taking a step back, and it's understandable for both squads at this point, but I think both are in the mix as we near the midway point of the SEC season. 615-737-1025 is the phone number. Our phone and text line driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. If you want to join the conversation. Coming up next, we will talk with the voice of Vanderbilt baseball, Andrew Allegretta, joining us to talk about that sweep over Tennessee, and Vanderbilt looking ahead to Belmont tonight at home before heading down to the Lone Star State. They'll take on a top 25 Texas A&M team to start off the month of April. 615-737-1025. Couple more segments on this Tuesday. We'll talk with Andrew Allegretta up next. You're on Next Man Up, 102.5 The Game. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. Couple more segments on this Tuesday morning, live from First Horizon Park. And again, we are out here all day long as the Sounds start their home schedule tonight. Home opener against the Charlotte Knights, 6:35 p.m. first pitch. So Chase and Big Joe will take over from me coming up at noon. So excited for that. We are going to speak with Andrew Allegretta, and actually Andrew is ready. Let's go to our phone lines, driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Andrew Allegretta, the voice of Vanderbilt baseball, is with us. Andrew, thanks for taking some time. How's it going this morning?
What's going on? Opening day, huh?
It is. It is opening day for the Sounds. You guys are fully into mid-season form at this point, which is just crazy how much earlier the college baseball season starts. But I guess that's a conversation for another time.
Yeah, it's one that needs to be had, but it is a conversation for another time.
Well, Andrew, what a weekend it was over at Hawkins Field. 3 games, 3 walk-off wins for the Vandy boys, and it is a huge sweep of Tennessee to get back above 500 in the SEC. I know the answer to this, but are you getting tired of walk-off calls at this point, just hoping for a normal game at home after 7 of the last 10 home SEC games have ended in walk-offs?
It's not so much the walk-offs, Jake. I could likely do without 16 innings. That one time and the drop is great, and you've got one for the record book. But after that, I think we can skip 16 innings.
For sure. 16 innings is a lot. And, maybe there's something to do with a ghost runner of some sort that would help deal with that. But for this team, Andrew, coming off that being swept at Mississippi State the weekend before, really needed a strong weekend against the rival Tennessee and got it. And I thought Saturday's game that went 16 innings, the freshmen and the pitching that they were able to give you, getting through all of regulation in that game, I thought that was great. And that's something that needs to continue for this team to continue to compete, is see the freshmen shoving on the mound.
I think for folks that are just catching up with college baseball and Vanderbilt baseball this season, perhaps what you might have missed is the fact that Vanderbilt has dealt with a slew of arm injuries. You're talking about your Saturday starter, Austin Nye, that is done for the rest of the season. You've got major question marks with Miller Green. A Nashville kid comes out of the bullpen. Matthew Shorey, a Nashville kid, could have been our Tuesday, Sunday starter. England Bryant, who could have been our closer. Major question marks there. There's a freshman by the name of Aiden Stillman, who we hope to get back, but he's not been able to pitch so far this season. We've gone from thinking we would have 4 to 5 lefties down to just 1 with Jacob Schultz. And then what you've got behind all of it is a really talented freshman class with Wyatt Neto, with Tyler Baird, with Nate Schlode, and Connor Hamilton, who's also from Nashville. And you didn't know what their role would be this season. You knew that they were talented and perhaps they would take the Walker Buehler track or one of these guys that comes out of the bullpen or throws on Tuesday. And then by the time they're a junior, they're a household name. They've been forced into action, and they did a great job. Baird had a miserable start versus Mississippi State last Sunday. It was flat miserable. And he took it as a lesson, and he came back out of the bullpen. And to your point, Jake, he was, I think, 5 innings, scoreless, a handful of strikeouts.
Yep.
Kind of showed the pitcher that Vanderbilt thought he could be at the start of the season. And that's got to continue to grow. I asked Coach Corbin yesterday on Commodore Hour, basically, if Austin Nye's injury kind of helps those guys recognize the fact that they don't have a choice. They've got to step up, right? Like, you want Austin Nye to throw. He could have been, one of the best pitchers in the conference this season, but he's not going to. So now everybody has clarity on the fact that, yes, Tyler Baird, Wyatt Neto, Connor Hamilton, Nate Schlode, they're going to have to be factors, and they stepped up.
We're talking to Andrew Allegretta, voice of the Vandy boys. Andrew, I am just mind blown. How in the world in 3 games are there 3 walk-offs, 3 straight games to beat your arch rivals and sweep them? How in the world does that happen?
I don't know. It's a police car buzzing by. I'm outside talking to you guys. This lovely Tuesday afternoon. I don't know. I really don't. And quite frankly, it's to Jake's point. It's 7 out of the last 10 SEC home games have been walk-offs. That includes 5 walk-off home runs, 3 last season, 2 so far this season. When you consider the fact that before last season, you'd have to go back to 2021 to find the most recent SEC walk-off home run, or go back to like 2018 in the Supers. versus Mississippi State to find another SEC. It's truly perplexing. It is the definition of you never know what you're going to get when you show up to the yard. Do I think there's something about the makeup of the team, the toughness, the grittiness? Perhaps is there something about the makeup or the fact that this is much more power-driven college baseball, which kind of lends itself to walk-off home runs versus 2014 when Vandy won the national championship and nobody on that team had double-digit home runs. Perhaps there's some of that. I'm sure I've not studied it. I do think the fact that it's more offensive of an era probably lends itself to some walk-off home runs where you may not get as many back in 2014 or 15 when it was more of a dead ball era. There's probably some of that, but the ability to do that, I don't know. I think Tennessee's a very, very good program, but I think they're growing at the moment too. Obviously, they've won a bunch in the past handful of years, which is why Vitello's with the Giants now. And they're still a very good team, but I do think there's probably some growth happening in Knoxville as much as Vanderbilt has had to grow with freshman pitchers this season too.
And I can only imagine the confidence boost, not just for the baseball team getting a sweep over your series rival, but the success that the entire athletic department has had this season, this school year specifically against Tennessee. And you mentioned the pitching, but what has to improve down the stretch of the regular season for the Vandy boys to kind of get things turned around and get going in the direction that they know they're capable of?
Yeah, so I asked Coach Corbin, hey, it's a great weekend, but you're still a coach. What are you tinkering with? His answer was defense. And specifically outfield defense. I feel like we've played pretty good infield defense. Wherever we've kind of positioned guys from, again, if you're just getting caught up on college baseball, we've got the biggest little spark plug in 5'10" Riker weight that plays short. There was that joke that, if you're 5'10", go to Vanderbilt and just pop off in Diego and Tyler Tanner. And from the baseball program's perspective, that guy is Riker weight. He's an absolute fireball. He's fun to watch, but he's played great at short. Coach Corbin talked about elevating the defense, so I wouldn't be surprised. We play Belmont here later tonight, whether it's tonight versus Belmont or this weekend versus Texas A&M. I wouldn't be surprised to see the defense kind of continue to shake up and evolve. They moved Holcomb, who's this 6'4", massive power hitter, from center field to third base. They took their second baseman, Rustin Riggs, and put him to center field. I wouldn't be surprised if that continues to kind of tinker and move for Coach Corbin because, the pitching is going to get better because the freshmen will get experience. The offense has certainly been really strong this season. I think we're still second, third in the country in home runs. And the defense has missed a couple of opportunities that would have helped the pitching staff in their growth as well, if that makes sense, and limiting some base runners and keeping the pitchers out of tough spots.
We're talking with Andrew Allegretta, the voice of Vanderbilt baseball. Andrew, Mike Mancini is a guy who came over from James Madison and maybe didn't have quite the impact that he hoped last year, but has stepped up in a big way this season after missing some time early. What have you seen with Mike Mancini, whether it's just a difference in approach or maybe some work with Jason Esposito, the hitting coach, that has allowed him to take such a big step this year?
Some of it's health. He had two notable injuries at the start of last season. He was able to play, but one of them was a hamate injury.
Yeah.
And if folks are kind of in the weeds on baseball, that's a tough one to have from a hitter's perspective. It's basically this tiny bone in your hand that goes right up against the handle of the bat, and it causes pain when you swing. So he had hamate surgery before the start of last season, and I think that kind of took him out of rhythm basically the entirety of the season. For Vanderbilt fans, Pedro Alvarez had this All-World 2006, All-World 2007 season. And before he was drafted in 2008, at the start of the year, he had hamate surgery. And he got off to a really slow start. I don't think he kind of accelerated that season until April or May. I mean, hamate's a nasty thing from a hitter's perspective.
Yeah.
So I think just the fact that he's been healthy has kind of allowed him to settle in this season. And he's one of the true upperclassmen on this team. There's not a ton. There's juniors, but in terms of the senior class, he's definitely leading the way. And he's got a lot of confidence, and he's just kind of a stable presence. He's a positive presence. I just think he's kind of embracing his opportunity, being healthy, and I do think it takes a minute for guys to step into the Vanderbilt baseball program. Not that it's done better or whatever than anybody else, but it's just a different program. You kind of have to find your footing. And if you're not healthy and, you're new and all of that sort of stuff, there can be a learning curve. I think he's kind of found his footing with the program this year.
Andrew, last one for you here. After Belmont tonight, heading back on the road for another top 25 series at Texas A&M. Obviously wasn't ideal, the results, facing a really good Mississippi State team on the road in a tough environment. What do you think this team can learn from that first experience on the road and try and lead to better results this weekend in College Station?
Yeah, it's a good question. We got swept there back in 2024. I think it will be helpful that the freshmen have been through a hostile environment. It was 15,000 people in Starkville, which if you've never been to a game at Mississippi State for college baseball, like if you can get down there, it's worth it. I think it's the best environment in college baseball. I think all of the top 25 on-campus attendance records are all at Mississippi State.
Wow.
College Station is right there in the group of the top 5 in terms of top college environments. They've got just a boatload of traditions. It's a crowd that I wouldn't necessarily call like angry hostile, but they are active in the game and they can sweep you up and they can kind of take you away, especially if you're a pitcher and you throw some balls, you've got some walks. They're going to let you hear about it. Like there's going to be ball 6, ball 7, ball 8. You've got to be grounded. And the fact that the freshman class has been through it, and the fact that guys like Holcomb or Barzy or some of our juniors have been through it before back in 2024, at least should allow them to kind of know what you're in for. Because if you don't know, it's really hard to shake things off if you've never had the experience of doing it before. It's just a psychology thing. So they've all been through something that is hostile. And I hope that provides them a level of grounding. And it's good. And whether the crowd's big or the crowd's small, the team on the field will provide plenty of resistance.
Andrew, thanks as always for taking some time. Looking forward to a big week of Vanderbilt baseball coming off the sweep against Tennessee. Starting tonight, 5:45 pregame right here on 102.5 The Game. Have a great call tonight, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Jake, as always.
Andrew Allegretta, voice of Vanderbilt baseball, joining us here on the program. Again, they face Belmont tonight before heading south to face Texas A&M for 3 over the weekend. We will react to Andrew and wrap up the show on the other side. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly, next man up, 102.5. Next man up, 102.5 The Game. Jake Lyman, Parker Kelly with you. Final segment on the show today. Nick Frazier is sitting here next to us. He will be with Chase McCabe coming up at the top of the hour. Sadly, he can't hear the bump music coming back here.
That's why I played it.
Yeah, I know. I knew you played it for him. It was Ella Langley. I knew Nick Frazier couldn't hear it, but our Ella fella is ready to take the air after we're done here at the top of the hour. Big thanks to Andrew Allegretta for joining us in the last segment, voice of Vanderbilt baseball. The Commodores back on the field today at Hawkins Field, 6 o'clock first pitch against Belmont in a cross-town rivalry. But over here at First Horizon Park, got some baseball too. 6:35 first pitch, Sounds and Knights in the home opener. There will be fireworks after the game. No reason not to come out on what is a beautiful day in Nashville. A little bit of cloud cover has come in, which actually I'm a fan of. It's cooled things down a little bit, but still a gorgeous day for the home opener for the Nashville Sound. So make sure you come on out. Before we wrap up the show today, we spent the first 2 hours almost exclusively on football and then have done some baseball in the last 45 minutes, but did want to touch on the Nashville Predators as we're gearing up for a huge weekend in Smashville, or not in Smashville, on the road, but 3 straight games against the teams that I think are the biggest threats to you in the playoff race. You need to win these games, and as we talked about yesterday, you kind of need to win them in regulation too. You want these to be 4-point results to stretch things out. Right now, the Kings are 1 point back from you. Preds and Kings coming up on Thursday and then on Monday. So twice in less than a week, both games in LA. San Jose coming up on Saturday. They played last night and won, so now they are just 2 points back and still have 2 games in hand against the Predators. So you got to scoreboard watch a little bit, but for the most part, the most important thing for the Predators is these 3 games this weekend. You got to win. You got to be able to get those 4-point results. And I like it that the Preds have some time off here because you're coming off a tough weekend. You lose 3 straight games against Eastern Conference opponents. You get this little reset. 8 more games the rest of the way leading up to April 16th. So you got 8 games in about a 2-week stretch to go and try and clinch a playoff spot. I like the reset here. And you're going to have the rest advantage against the Kings on Thursday because LA has to play a back-to-back. They are playing on Wednesday night and then the Preds on Thursday, both those games at home. Preds are going to have the full 3 days. Yeah, you're traveling, but you got some time to get ready for it. That should be an advantage for the Preds in what is, as almost every game is the rest of the season, the most important of the game of the season to this point coming up on Thursday night against the Kings.
And I know we've said this a lot, but I actually mean it. I think the next 3 games for the Nashville Predators are probably the biggest games of the season because you're at LA, you're at San Jose, and then you're back in LA. And if you're looking at the standings, LA is the team on your heels right now with 76 points. You have 77 in that final wild card spot. But then San Jose, they're under Seattle, but them and Seattle both have 75 points. So we'll have a really good gauge of where this team stands after those final 3 games. But, you know, you have a bunch of teams on your heels, but those are 2 of the teams that are just right there. So I think the next 3 for the Preds are probably the biggest games of the year.
Yeah, we're going to just keep saying this is the week where we find out about the Preds until the season ends.
We're going to be saying it next week, too. This is the biggest game all season for the Preds.
I mean, that's been the issue with the Predators is they're not doing enough for you to completely give up on them, but they're doing just enough to keep you hanging on to some hope here. And that's why every week it's like, all right, well, this is the week we're going to find out about the Preds. And you felt like they finally got through that up and down roller coaster ride when they won the 5 straight. And you're like, all right, the Preds, they're in a good spot. They're in wild card 2 and they got some cushion. And you had a chance to stretch out your lead and you lose 3 straight. Now we're back to the pretty much the same spot that the Preds have been in for the past month and a half. I know they currently occupy wild card 2, but you have at least 1 game in hand against everybody chasing you. The Kings, 1 point back. They've got 73 games. You've played 74. The Kraken and Sharks both have only played 72 games. So you're looking at an uphill battle, even though technically the Predators hold wild card 2 right now. They do control their own destiny, I believe, because they have these head-to-head games against the Kings and the Sharks. But you also if you don't sweep those games, you're going to need some help given that you've played more games than everybody else and you have less points available to you. Tonight, Kraken at the Oilers. You're rooting for Edmonton there. The Jets are at the Blackhawks. I don't think Winnipeg is a factor. They're 3 points back, and that's a lot of traffic that they have to pass if they're going to get up to that final wild card spot. But I would root for the Blackhawks, as hard as that may be for Preds fans in that game tonight, because Chicago's obviously out of it. Winnipeg still has a puncher's chance. But it's really Preds, Kings, Kraken, Sharks. One of those teams is going to get the final wild card spot. Preds going to have to take care of business on this West Coast road trip where every game is against a team that you're directly competing against, with the exception of Anaheim, who is 4 points up in the Pacific right now, so have to feel pretty good about their chance to win that division. But outside of that, it's you against the teams that you're battling with for playoff positioning. You have to be able to get some key wins this weekend.
Hypothetically, could Seattle jump you tonight in the standings?
Yes.
With
so
the win
if
in
the Kraken
regulation?
win, they would tie you at 77 points. And I don't know what the tiebreakers would be, but I would, in my mind, feel like the Kraken are in front because they still have the game in hand, right? So if the Predators were to win their final 8 games, the max points they could get is 16. If the Kraken were to win their final 10 games, they could get 20, which would pass the Preds, given that they still have more points available to them. So, yeah, pretty much. You're rooting pretty hard for the Oilers, which, again, might be tough for Preds fans. But for Edmonton, they're pretty secure that they're going to be in the playoff, even if you don't know quite yet whether it's going to be the 2 or the 3 seed. Really, that in the Pacific, all that really decides is who's going to get home ice advantage in that first-round series with the Oilers and the Golden Knights. So you don't really have to worry about that. I guess Utah is kind of on their heels in that wild card spot, but there's not a whole lot on the line for Edmonton. They're the better team. You're rooting for Edmonton to beat Seattle tonight and keep the Kraken a couple points back of the Predators heading into the weekend. But that's your scoreboard watching for tonight. The Predators are still off until Thursday when they will take on the Kings. A lot of late-night puck drops over the weekend. Preds at the Kings, at the Sharks, at the Kings again, Thursday through Monday. And when you come out on the other side, a week from today on Tuesday, again, we say it every week, Parker, but I think you're going to have a pretty good idea of what the Predators are heading towards the playoffs. If you take 2 out of 3 in these games against the Kings and the Sharks, you're in a good spot. But if you only get a point or 2 over these 3 games on the road, it's going to be a really tough hill to climb for the Predators to get into the final playoff spot. That will wrap things up for us today. Again, it's been a beautiful day at First Horizon Park. Perfect weather, home opener tonight with fireworks after the game. Come on out and cheer on the Sounds as they take on the Charlotte Knights in the first of 6 games this week. We will be out here all day. Coming up next, Chase and Big Joe. Don't go anywhere. You're listening to 102.5 The Game.